Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm gonna get myself renamed here. Armand.
Armand's in the car.
Where are you off to this morning, Armand?
Anderson.
Oh, bless your heart.
So I'm going to have to do this on my cell phone.
Well, that is fine. And if anything happens, I will have a recording out later today or tomorrow. I'm not sure for sure what time Becky's joining us this morning, but we are going to do our normal thing until she gets here. And then she's going to chat with everyone about multiple offers. So I'm excited about that.
Good.
Yeah, I'll be able to do that in 8 minutes. I'm going to be inside, so I won't have all this glare.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's start like we always start. Who wants to give me their big win for the week, their #1 challenge for the week, and what they are looking forward to this weekend?
Well, I'm slowly catching up on my follow-ups, and that's good because I know that is what it's going to take to develop the business that I'm wanting. And I understand that part now, or how it should be particular to me. My challenge is this customer. I told her for the job that she needed to buy, quarter round comes in 8-foot lengths. I told her to buy 92 linear feet of quarter round pre-finished white. She buys one piece.
Oh.
So her husband just stared at me this morning when I told him we were going to need 8 more pieces. So that's my challenge.
You are definitely going above and beyond on this one, Armand.
Yeah. Well, customers understand that and appreciate that.
As long as they understand and appreciate that, I guess that's what it is. And plus, sometimes that's what we have to do to get it across the finish line. I know that. But I don't know. You're on your 7th or 8th trip to Anderson?
Yeah, about that.
Hey, stop by, say hello.
Probably making $3 per
an hour when you're all said and done. Oh, I know how that goes. All right. Well, Armand, what are you most looking forward to this weekend?
Getting past this, and I'm going to help somebody with some genealogy. That's one of my hobbies. So.
Very good. How did your appointments go with your for sale by owners yesterday?
Okay. But I need to practice more what to say when you're at the home, and then also on follow-ups. I did a thank you follow-up so far, but that's easy. But I need to figure out a little bit more, be more comfortable and confident on where to go at the end. I mean, I know some of the things to say, I think I did them all right, but then now I've got more follow-up to do. And I guess I need to learn that better so that I actually will get the business.
Well, Armand, I think we should go back to the for sale by owner group, because I know there are a lot of you that want to do that. And if we can figure out, maybe I can even get Keen to help facilitate that on Fridays, so he could have the Zoom link set up and you guys could get on and mastermind together and practice, right? Because it's all about practice.
Okay.
So let's talk about that on Monday. Okay. Who's next? Biggest win this week, your biggest challenge this week, and what you're most looking forward to for the weekend?
I can go next, because then I have to mute you because I have a couple of things I have to do in the background.
Good morning, Gretchen.
Good morning. My biggest challenge this week was still just acclimating to command and getting, like I did a buyer presentation, a listing presentation. I did all of that, like figuring all that out and got it all
Awesome.
put in my toolkit. Yeah, so
That
was
sounds
great.
like a win, dear, not a challenge.
Oh, well, I guess it was a challenge getting it done. So yeah, I guess it's kind of both. But then my win is that, I mean, I already have a potential buyer. I mean, it's someone in my orbit,
Yay!
but they're like, hey, now that you're doing this, let's look for what I need. So I was like, sounds good. So that was a huge one. I wasn't expecting that. And then looking forward to for the weekend, I think just some sunshine. Like we actually have some sun here. So I think I'm gonna get outside for a little bit. So yeah,
Awesome. Yes, it looks like it's going to be pretty.
it'll be nice.
Awesome. Very good. Well, you know, as far as your challenge goes, I'm getting ready to send you your week 2 list, and now you get more challenge.
Awesome. I'm ready.
Awesome. All right. Who else is next?
I'll go.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
Okay. Well, I don't feel like I have any big wins this week other than getting through the inspection response, which was also the challenge that I was facing, getting through that. And even though the other agent, the buyer's agent and myself, we went over it a little bit yesterday. He apologized. He said, I do apologize. You guys probably should have broken that down individually. Had to go through that. I was like, I think we come to terms on it, so we're good to go. We're not going to dig up any basement floors or anything like that, so that's all good. And I don't know. This weekend, I don't know what I'm looking forward to. I got my whole entire house cleaned yesterday, so well, that's done. So that was my big win. That has nothing to do with real estate, but I did get my house cleaned yesterday. So just trying to get some more buyers and sellers is what I'm looking for this weekend, because that's what I'm going to do after training today.
What are you going to do after training today?
Work on calls and
Calls. Okay.
my neighborhood and other people that I'm going to follow back up with, some of the people that I've spoken with in the past, just to make sure we're all still on the same page and see where they're at, see if they're ready to list.
Awesome. I just that you guys are going to think I'm nuts because you guys just all are going to get an email reminding you that we're here this morning and Becky's going to be here at 9:30 because I just wanted to make sure everybody remembered. I didn't send out a reminder yesterday like I normally do. Okay, who's next? Big win, big challenge, and what you're most looking forward to this weekend.
I think my big win and my biggest challenge was kind of a little bit of self-discovery on staying on task. And I mean, I've already talked about this with Carla, but my last few weeks, I've kind of fallen off on some of the various tasks that I've set out to do in the 12 Weeks to Success program. And so I've made the determination that, like, in my mind, it's so easy to do the calls because that's kind of what my understanding of lead gen is. But the last few weeks, my note cards, Facebook, all those other things that I'm trying to accomplish through the 12 weeks have kind of fallen off. And so I've made the determination that I need to be very specific on my calendar, and not only have my time block set out for lead gen, but also being very specific with the intervals for writing note cards and intervals for doing my Facebook and things like that. A very detailed and descriptive calendar, I think, will keep me on task and keep me honest.
Of course, you guys know that I absolutely love that, right? Anybody else think that it would be helpful if you put everything on your calendar so you kept on target with what you were supposed to do?
Absolutely.
Anybody remember what that's called?
Time block.
Yes. Love it. Thank you for sharing, Kenneth. I love that. You made my day yesterday, by the way.
There's something else that's not really related, but it's just interesting. You remember how I was telling you about that open house yesterday?
Yes.
Well, anyways, I got a call yesterday afternoon from this guy, and he said, "Hey, I just saw this house. I want to write an offer on it." And he he actually saw the house with a different agent, but he didn't like that agent and wanted to write it through me.
Okay. He wasn't under contract.
No, but with some conversations with numerous agents and the broker hotline,
Yeah, you got precipitating cause.
nothing ever ended up happening with it. For a moment, I thought I was going to get a free offer, but he'd been working with this other agent for quite some time. And I basically laid things out for him, like, in order for this to be done properly, like I could help you, but I would need to show you the property. I would need to get you to sign a buyer agency form and an office policy form. And he sounded hesitant to do all of that. So it was just a weird afternoon.
Well, you know what? You could follow up with him though, because that house may not work out, right? Because there's a little bit of an issue with that house. So you might be able to help him find another house.
If he didn't end up getting that house, I was definitely going to try and take the reins with him.
Very good. Did you tell us what you were looking forward to this weekend?
Well, I think I'm just looking forward to some nice weather.
I think we're all going to agree on that one. Absolutely. All right, who's next? Big win this week, biggest challenge this week, and what are you looking forward to this weekend?
I'll go. Biggest win was getting back from vacation and being able to click everything off that needed to be done to make it to bowling yesterday. So I hit that. So I was super excited about getting everything caught back up and back to normal after being gone for a week. And then
Where'd you go? Where'd you
I went to Atlantis in the Bahamas. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, went to Atlantis in the Bahamas. It was 80 degrees every day. It was beautiful, a lot of sun and surf. So it was a good, relaxing time.
Nice, nice.
Biggest challenge was just trying to get everything caught back up because I really wanted to go to bowling. So that was the goal I set for myself was, hey, I want to get everything caught up and done. Did my first buyer's new build walkthrough yesterday. Was kind of an interesting experience. She was very overwhelmed, even with the prep of, hey, every time you say yes that you like something, it's going to cost you more, and that we couldn't just go crazy on the upgrades with her price point. Talked about model shock, and then she still walked in and was like, oh, I love this house. It's like, well, this isn't what your house is going to look like. But so she was a little overwhelmed. It was kind of difficult going against the salesperson at the model home, trying to lean her towards these upgrades. And then she's looking at me, and I have to not so much shoot her down, but remind her that, hey, if a new home is what she wants, then to stay in her price point, she can't add these things on. So it was an interesting day, but it ended up going pretty well. She called again last night and said, hey, I'm glad you were able to reel me back in. She's like, everything looked so great. And I was like, well, that's what they do. So, I mean, she was grateful that I was able to keep her in check. And so that way she's going to be able to get a home now. Whereas if she went with everything they requested for the upgrades, then it wouldn't be something that she could afford. This weekend, my appliances got delivered yesterday to the barn dough, so I'm going to go down and see those today. And then we are almost finished. We got final approval from Brown County on the water. So all the easements have been signed and water should begin next week getting to the house.
We're all coming for a tour as soon as you're ready.
Absolutely.
Hey, Amy, real quick, will you tell everybody about your packet that you put together for your home buyer, your builders, your new builds? I'd like to get Amy to come for one of the workshops and just kind of walk you through what she's done with new builds. But I just wanted you to share real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I did was I put together a book, and I should have brought it in from the car. I took it yesterday. And so I put together a book that kind of talks about the pros and cons of new construction, what to look for, a whole article on model shock, of them putting all the upgrades in the models, talking about the new construction process. And then I went to each community and kind of pull information, which floor plans they have available. And so I have a book, only Johnson County so far, because that's my main area, for all the different new home construction communities, the price points. That way I can go over that with new clients when they come in and are considering new construction.
So would everybody
That's
think it would
awesome.
be really helpful if Amy came and gave you guys a little overview? You guys know what Amy's background is, but well, I don't know. Amy's got so many backgrounds. Why don't you share, Amy?
So yes, absolutely. So I've been in new construction for 20, going on 26 years now. So I started a company at
Oh, wow.
19 years old and have done it for a really long time now. We do post-construction cleanup all over the Midwest, residential and commercial, power washing, concrete ceiling, epoxy floors, all of that kind of stuff. Also last year I started building homes, and real estate kind of fits in with all of that.
Hey, Amy, do you ever find yourself in Louisville? If so, I want to take you to a really expensive dinner and hang out with you and talk to you all day.
I am in Louisville quite often, so.
Hey, really?
Really, I am.
Oh, so seriously, I would love to meet up with you if you have time in your schedule. And will you put your phone number in the chat so I can reach out to you?
Yeah, we'll do, absolutely.
I would love it. Thank you so much.
That's a great idea.
Awesome. All right, Amy, we'll figure out a Saturday and it'll be all yours. All right, who's next? Oh, Amy, did you say what you were looking forward to this weekend?
Yeah, going to see my appliances at the barn door.
Oh, the appliances. That's it. Okay. She's going to visit her new appliance. All right, who's next?
I can go next. What are the questions, the usual ones, wins, challenges?
Wins, challenge, weekend.
Okay. So wins, I have a lady who is had put an offer on a house a week ago, maybe yesterday. And the house is owned by a nonprofit company that's helping to revitalize the west end of Louisville. And we got the offer accepted yesterday, finally. There's all kinds of hoops and things to jump through. So I was very excited for my buyer yesterday. So that's under contract. Challenges. As of right now, I don't feel like I have any challenges, and I'll tell you the reason why. I have been feeling very frantic in my head and running on the hamster wheel for a good number of weeks. And I don't feel like that today. I've sat down and I made some schedules and kind of some strategic plans for the next 2 months for my personal life, as well as things coming up in my business life. So I feel very unchallenged at the moment. That will change in probably 10 minutes, but right now I don't feel like I have one. So I feel very good about that. And for this weekend, my open house got canceled for the day, which is unfortunate. The seller's son is sick or something. So no open house today, but that's good because it'll give me a chance to stay home, call people, catch up on stuff, clean up my work area. It's just been nuts. So sad about the open house, but it's a good thing. I'm gonna be home today, so working.
Isn't that fun? When sometimes we get those little surprises and they
Yeah.
work out to be a benefit, even though it seems like it wouldn't be.
Right, and I'm making bacon right now, so breakfast will be ready in a little while. So
You have enough for all of us.
if you get down here, I got another pound in the freezer. I'll just yank it out. So come on. It's only about a 3-hour drive. Come on down.
I love it. I love the fact that there are no challenges. You know, that is a really good mindset to have, right?
Great
we
right
all
now.
have challenges, but can we sometimes just turn the coin over and see those challenges as something else?
Well, I just felt like this morning I was sitting on my couch. I was making a grocery list, just doing mundane stuff. And my son is graduating in 2 months from high school, and I think my sister's coming in from Delaware. My house looks like hobos live in it. And I was just sitting here thinking about the things I wanted to do and when and how. And I just had all these moments of clarity, and it was really helpful. So I needed that.
Love that.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
All right, who's next? Win, challenge, and Best thing that happened for the weekend. We got 11 minutes, so you got to go fast because Becky's gonna be here at 9:30. She just texted.
I can
I'll
be
go.
quick.
Go, Keisha. You can go.
Okay, so my win is that I do have a listing,
Yay!
and yeah, so I'm glad about that. But the win part is I was able to do it with someone, so it helped to at least have done it with somebody. My challenge is that process was more than I expected. I think she thought that I had a listing before, but I didn't. So there was some miscommunication there. And I'm looking forward, I'm putting together, well, I did put together something for my daughter to do with all this pandemic. The kids can't play too much together. So they're going to go bowling today. So I'm looking forward to seeing them have fun.
Very good. Okay, Jay, go.
Good morning. My win is getting my listing from my investor friend. That's done. So getting that done and get it ready. My challenge is getting the listing and getting it ready, moving forward for the next week. And for the weekend is going to take pictures, make sure it's starting to get done, and I get in the motion of moving forward of getting my listing right. And also I got a coaches meeting for my son's baseball thing at about 10:30. So looking forward to that to see how that's going to work out with this whole real estate thing, since I'm gonna be coaching both of the teams and trying to show houses between 5 and 8, 9, 5 and 9, 5 and 8. So challenge, win-win challenge. I don't know. You can put it all together if you want to. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. So
It's gonna be fun. You know, a challenge is only a challenge if we can't tackle it, right?
true.
Otherwise, it's just a hurdle, and all we have to do is jump over
That's
it,
it.
right?
Or run through it and fall and get back up. So
Yes, exactly. And I do that on a regular basis.
That's me. Run right into it, get back up, go over it again. So
Does anybody ever at the very beginning of the day think there is absolutely no way I'm going to make it through this day? And then you get to the end of the day and you're like, oh my gosh, I got it all done. That was awesome. We staged 2 houses yesterday. I thought when the kids said we had to get them all done in one day, I thought, yeah. And I had doctor's appointment in the middle of it all. So very fun. But I got, for those of you in Indy, I'm going to have 2 recommendations for open houses coming up soon. If anybody wants to have an open house in a staged house, one of them is near Fountain Square. So, okay, who's next?
I'll go.
Go. Are you at work today?
So no, I'm at home. Thank God. So that's a win, right? So you took
Awesome.
right out.
By the way, this is Renata, not iPhone.
Okay.
Carla's got names for everybody. But anyway, so yeah, so I think to a nod to Kenneth, a schedule, a calendar is really great. And so I was able to look at my schedule for work, and that's a 6-week calendar. So that really gave me insight on what I can and cannot do. And I had to have that because the last month was kind of crazy, trying to do real estate and nursing and trying to figure out what day I'm working, but at least get my 6-week calendar down, seeing some sunlight. There's no snow outside. So that's a win-win. And that's it. That was my challenge. I mean, because Carla's going to get you if you're 2 minutes late anyway, as she should.
Now, I'm a little bit more flexible than that.
But anyway, she's back in town. So, you can always tell, you can look at Carla's face and say, okay, she got some rest. All right. But
yeah, there was nothing last weekend about resting. You pack up my house in a weekend.
Last week, I was like, uh-oh. But anyway, I was the same way. But like Kenneth said, a schedule, a calendar is so important. And I couldn't see my way. And so now, and someone else said last weekend about starting over. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to trash this whole month, February, because I had like I said, a death in the family and then the snow. And it was just a overwhelming month. So I'm happy March is here. That's it.
Well, here's the thing. We don't actually have to trash February, right? We can look back at February and go, what did we do well that we want to continue? and what did we struggle with and how can we make that better, right? So we don't want to trash February necessarily. We want to make it a learning opportunity. And that's the jumping over the hurdle, falling down and getting back up, right, Jay? I love that, Renata. Okay, who's next? Who hasn't gone yet? Alexis, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Uh-oh.
Yes, I am here.
So is my Alexis downstairs. She just got really excited. She thought I was talking to her.
All the kids call me Alexa because they think I'm the little like robot thing. So I actually have clients that decided to go with a new construction because they just did not want to do the whole fitting thing, which is good because this is my first new construction, and we actually went with Arbor Homes, which is really good because I watched the video, the recording that we just had recently about the training for a new construction. So we meet with the specialist today at 2 p.m. So I'm really, really excited about that. They're a huge family of 10. So
holy cow,
they are huge. They have 8 kids. So honestly, like, that's like a really good one for me, being able to, you know, find them something that's in their price range that will be affordable and definitely enough space for their family. And then I have a few other clients who are looking in the current market. But this weekend the weather's great. I took my son to Defy yesterday. It's like an indoor jumping trampoline place. So yeah, we had a pretty good start off to the weekend.
I love that. I love the new build. So this is a really good opportunity for us, right? Since our buyers are having such a hard time finding homes. It's really, really, I love that you were able to resolve things for them that way. Well, okay, Becky Gluff is in the house.
Hello.
Are you here?
I had to unmute. Hi.
Good morning. All right. I get the privilege of introducing you to my productivity coach when I was a brand new agent. So this is Becky Gluff, and some of you in the South office and in Indy, you probably know her. Some of you guys in Columbus and Louisville may not have had the opportunity to meet Becky. I may get the number a little off, but I think it's somewhere around 106 houses in 2020. Correct. So 106 closings in 2020, or contracts.
Well, 97 technically closed in 2020. A couple of them had to be pushed into January. Darn it.
Was that rude or what? Couldn't give her the whole century mark in the year. We can move the calendar just for Becky. Well, anyway, Becky is the listing guru at the Scott Smith team at Indy Metro South. And I asked Becky to come today to share with you guys, because I hear challenges all the time that we're having to make multiple times we're having to offer because we are losing out. So Becky's going to give us some insight into what we can do to best represent our buyers when we're in this multiple offer situation. So I'm going to be quiet.
Okay, well, yeah, thanks for having me. I know some of you on here, and I'm excited to get to know the rest of you. I do have a little PowerPoint if you want to follow along. I don't know if I can share my screen. Let's see if I have privilege. Yes, I do. So you guys able to see that?
Yes.
Okay, so basically I do work primarily with sellers. I think 78% of my business last year came from sellers, and just about every house I list has multiple offers, and I feel really bad for buyers, and it's worse this year than it was last year. And I didn't even think that was possible. So I think it's really important that you know what it takes in this market to get an offer accepted. And it's hard. And so I think the biggest thing that you can do is, let me go ahead and get this, let's see, play is what I want to do. I want to present it. Slideshow from beginning. There we go. All right. Are the Zoom pictures in the way? Because on my screen it is, but I don't know if you can see it.
We can see it just fine. And if anybody's having a problem, all you have to do is at the very upper right-hand corner, you can make it the little one and then just move it.
Okay, so so it's fine right now?
I can see it
All
just
right,
fine.
good. So basically, here's kind of an overview of what I thought I'd chat about, and we can certainly ask questions. Feel free to interrupt. But the main thing is you want to have a strong buyer consultation, and I think setting clear expectations and preview with your buyers what it's going to take in this market. It's more important than ever to have a buyer's consultation now. And I know a lot of agents skip that step. They think it's not important. They rush out and they start showing homes before they sit down and really have a consultation with the buyer. So you also want to call the listing agent. Always talk to the listing agent before you present an offer. And you might talk to them a few times. Submit a complete offer. Don't make that listing agent come back and ask for something. that just, anyway, I'll talk more in detail about all of these. And then do something to set your offer apart. And I would say in this market, you might have to do all of them to set your offer apart. Use the escalation clause, and I'll talk about tricks on that. And then tap into the seller's emotion. So, anyway, it can't hurt. It might help and it can't hurt. So those are the 6 things that I think really help. This year, a little bit about me, as Carla said, I listed over 12 million as of August. So this I hadn't even updated. As of August, I had helped 62 families, 41 sellers, 21 buyers. So by the end of December, I had 106 under contract, which is an amazing year. I think in anyone's
Wow.
book. Yeah, it was pretty amazing. So I have a lot of experience. I guess I'm not trying to say that pridefully, but I have looked at a lot of offers, at least 106. And that's if each house had one offer, and some houses had 20 and 30 offers. So I'm going to go back to the first step, and the strong buyer consultation. I just can't emphasize this enough, that before you go out and show clients any homes, I mean, I kind of had a rule of thumb that I would show somebody maybe one home before I sat down and talked to them, just to cement that relationship. It's especially if it wasn't somebody that was referred to me. Maybe it was an internet lead or a Facebook lead and I didn't really know them, and they were dying to go out and look at a house. I would sometimes be willing to show them one home, but they had to come back to the office, or I just like to meet at the office. You can do a Starbucks or a McDonald's, or meet somewhere, especially if the office is not a convenient location for them. But I would recommend meeting at the office. When people go to a doctor, they go to the doctor's office. When they go to the dentist, they go to the dentist office. If you have an attorney, you go to the attorney's office. It just sets you apart as a professional. It shows them that you do have an office. And again, you may not personally have an office, but I'm sure your market center has a conference room, and that's what I do. I meet at the conference room at the market center, and that just sets you apart. So having that buyer's consultation is really, really important. You want to set the expectation and find out which options are available to your buyer. So for example, do they have to ask for any closing cost? If they do, that's almost a deal breaker in this market. I hate to say that, but I have not accepted an offer in probably a year where they've had to ask for closing cost. It's very, very, very unusual in this market. So make sure they understand if there's any way that they can borrow those funds, they can borrow down payment funds. I know you can't borrow closing costs, but if there's any way they can take a month or two and save, if they can anyway not ask the seller to help pay for closing costs, they're going to be way better than everybody else. And as you know, Keller Mortgage is one option. It's not the only lender I use, but they are a really good option because they don't charge any lender fee and they don't charge any loan origination fee. So I would definitely have them check out Keller Mortgage. They're still going to have to bring some money to the table because of prepaids. Does anybody know what a prepaid is? What's a prepaid?
Like your appraisal, and did you hear that?
Yes.
Taxes and insurance.
Yeah, taxes and insurance. Actually, the appraisal is an upfront cost. Usually they pay for that before they even get to closing. but a prepaid would be your taxes and your homeowner's insurance. Almost every lender is going to make a buyer have at least, I think it's about 6 months of taxes set aside and in the account, and maybe a year of homeowners insurance. So those are prepaids. Those are paid at closing, and any lender is gonna have that. There are some down payment assistance programs out there. I don't know if you've checked out. I know Carla has somebody that she recommends that does them. First Financial has some down payment programs. So there are some. Have your buyer do anything they can to not have to ask the seller to pay for closing costs. The second thing, ensure that they're fully pre-approved, not just pre-qualified. So I'll stop sharing, get a little class participation. Who knows the difference between pre-approval and pre-qualification generally?
Can I interrupt just for a second? Oh my goodness, James.
I know, I just saw that. I was wondering if y'all had talked about this before.
This is our first productivity coaching baby,
Oh.
AJ.
He is adorable. Hold him up. Oh my.
Oh my goodness.
Congratulations, James.
Yay.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Cool.
We know what James win challenge and best thing for the weekend is. So we don't even have to go there. All right, Becky, I am so sorry, but I just had to, when you switched over, there
no, that's so funny because I saw the same thing and I was going to acknowledge that. I'm like, oh my goodness, we have our youngest productivity coaching member here. Well, anyway, congrats, James.
Thank you.
All right.
Hi, it's Lakeisha. I've actually not even had a pre-qualification. So I always tell my buyers to get a pre-approval. So I don't think I've ever seen a pre-qualification or anything like that. So I'm not sure what that is.
Okay, good. Good for you. I'm glad you've not seen one. Does anybody know? Go ahead. Is
I understand. Oh, go ahead. Armand raised his hand.
A pre-qualification is just where you go into your bank and say, I want to buy a house. And John, I'm sitting across from you. Do you think I could get $30,000 or, well, let's be more realistic, $100,000 so I could buy this house? And John says, well, sure, I think so. You've got, let's see, 80,000 in the bank. So that'll cover part of it, and we'll just put a lien on it, and so on and so forth. But don't forget to bring in your tax records and your pay stubs and so on and so forth. Then we'll get you pre-approved when you get a chance.
Yeah, that's great example. Yeah, a pre-qualification is just based upon what the buyer tells the lender. They're like, yeah, I make about, $4,000 a month, and and they do usually run the credit, so they'll have a credit score, but they have no proof that they've had an income for 2 years. They've had no proof that they make what they say they make. A lot of times people overestimate what they make. They don't know if there's a bankruptcy. You can't buy a house for a few years if you have a bankruptcy. So those things just don't show up on a pre-qualification. And it is a pain for a buyer to get pre-approved because they have to turn in W-2s or self-employment. They have to turn in the last 2 years of tax returns. There's a list of documents that buyer has to turn in to get pre-approved. But then that usually will go right through what they call desktop underwriting. And your odds of getting an offer accepted go way up if you present a pre-approval letter versus just a pre-qualification letter. And the lenders are a little bit tricky sometimes. You can't just read pre-approval or pre-qualification. Go ahead and read that letter, because some lenders are saying, oh, you're pre-approved for a loan based upon the information you've given me without having proof. Well, that's not a pre-approval. Make sure it says we have gone through desktop underwriting, or that they have reviewed the taxes and the documents that were needed. The lender has to review those, not just a verbal, hey, I did this or I made this. So always make sure that they're pre-approved. There's a question on here. Do sellers look down on payment assistance? I don't know. That's a tough question. If everything else lines up and it's a really good offer, I don't think my sellers have really even taken that into consideration. What do you, Carla? And I know maybe even some of you who have sold homes, what do you think?
I think the VA FHA is one that gets us in, lower down on the list. And I'm sure you're going to cover that a little
Right.
bit later. So like the no down payment loan program through First Merchants is a conventional
Right.
loan. So I think there's a way to offset it. My take on that would be the letter from you to the listing agent, laying out all the strong points of your offer
Right.
would eliminate that as a possibility. Just, I've talked to the lender, and even though this is a no down payment 100% program, the blah, 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 whatever
Yeah,
it is.
I agree. I think it's more important the loan type and all the other conditions as part of your offer. I really haven't had a seller do that. So yeah, the FHA is kind of hard. And we will talk about that. So let me go back and share my screen so I stay on topic here. Okay. So if they have to close on a loan before they buy, close on a home before they buy, that's really, really tough these days, because it would make that offer contingent upon their house closing. And most sellers, when you've got 20 offers, you're going to take an offer that is not contingent upon them having to sell a home. So if you're in a situation where you've got somebody who wants to either upsize or downsize or just move to a different part of town, have them check into a bridge loan or a blanket loan. There's only a handful of lenders that do that. And I've got a couple of those that I can send to Carla if you want, but that's a really good option. Now that seller or buyer, they do have to qualify to be able to pay 2 mortgages. However, the second mortgage is an interest only for a few, I think it's up to a year that they have to sell their current home. So in this market, it's very low risk because their home's going to sell. Unless it's completely overpriced, it will sell within a year. It'll probably sell within 3 days, being honest. So a bridge loan or a blanket loan is a really good option for sellers and buyers, sellers who want to buy. Another question to ask is, are they willing to purchase as is? This is what you want to talk about at the buyer consultation. There's 3 options about inspections on the purchase agreement. One is to waive the inspection. That means I'm not even going to have it inspected. I would say I never or very, very, very rarely recommend that to a buyer. If I'm a buyer's agent, I want to protect my buyer's interest. It can be very risky to waive the inspection. It would have to be a very special case where maybe they knew the people living in the home and the home is only, 3 years old, something like that. The second option is to purchase it just a normal inspection. You have maybe 10 days or 14 days to have it inspected. Any disclosed defects are excluded from that, but then the buyer has an opportunity to come back to the seller and ask them to make repairs on defects. That's what most people do. Lately, we've been getting into this third option, which is the as is, which means I'm going to go ahead and have the home inspected, but I'm not going to ask the seller to make any repairs. So I won't go into the details of an as is addendum, because there's some things you'll want to do with that. But that is an option. You'll want to find out up front if your buyer is willing to do that. That definitely will help your offer get accepted in today's market.
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
Is that even possible with the FHA or VA loan?
Oh, absolutely it is. And I'll talk about loan types here in a second. So let me come back to that. But yes, it is. It is possible. So are they willing to pay over appraisal price? And again, I hate to have a buyer pay over appraisal price, but that's about the only way that I'm finding this year. Those are the only offers I've accepted. I think I've closed on 10 homes, something around there this year. all of them have had an appraisal like an appraisal waiver, or the buyer has been willing to pay over the appraisal.
Is there a
So
certain percent, Becky, that you see? I mean, I know that each home, is a different listing price, but is there something that makes you say, or do you mean like a couple thousand, $5,000, or what have you seen?
Yeah, no, I've had them all. I've had a couple of thousand. If it's a little bit maybe under 200,000, hey, a couple of thousand is better than nothing.
Absolutely.
But the one that I just listed last week was listed at 195. We had 3 offers for 220, and actually 3 different people offered to pay 5,000 over appraisal.
Okay.
I've had one where it was 30,000. They actually just guaranteed the purchase price. Now that's
Wow.
kind of scary. I don't think I would necessarily have my buyer do that, but that offer got accepted, and actually it ended up appraising. So they didn't end up having to bring any money to the table, which was amazing.
Thanks.
Yeah, but it is a risk. Make sure your buyer knows that, listen, if they don't have the money, they can't say they're going to bring it. So make sure that they are absolutely willing to bring 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 over appraisal. And I will tell you, this year is the first year where I think it's consistent, where just about everybody is willing to bring X amount of dollars over an appraisal. This is not normal.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and then are they willing to limit the dollar amount of requested inspection repairs? So let's say that they opt not to buy it as is. They want to go ahead and have the inspection. Then you can also say, hey, listen, we're going to have it inspected. We're only looking for defects. And if anything is under, say $1,000, we will not ask the seller to make any of those repairs. And that kind of guarantees that, listen, I'm not going to nickel and dime the seller to death. I'm not going to ask for, a squeaky light or a loose light, or a maybe one plug that has reverse polarity. I'm not going to ask for those things that are going to cost less than $1,000. So that is huge if you decide not to do the as is, or even if you do decide to do the as is, it's huge if you can kind of guarantee that seller that you're not going to nickel and dime them, that you're only looking for defects. And the purchase agreement defines what a defect is. It doesn't mean that something is defective. It is a house defect, a home defect. And there's 3 criteria in the purchase agreement that talk about that.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Yes.
What was that verbiage you said about the repairs?
Something like that, and I may have to, I'm going off the top of my head here, something like the buyer agrees not to ask the seller for any repairs costing less than $1,000.
Thank you.
For example.
Alexis, or everybody, in your PC library, in the folder that's called multiple offers, there is a sample Indiana purchase agreement with that language and the further conditions as well.
Awesome. Okay, what's not on here, and I definitely want to talk about, and we've alluded to it, is the difference in the loan types. It is really, really difficult for an FHA loan to get accepted these days. When you're competing with conventional and insured conventional loans, it is really difficult. And the last 2 buyers that I've talked to, I've had them go back to their lender, and maybe an FHA loan is the best deal for them. But if they can qualify for an insured conventional loan or conventional loan product, they're going to have their offer accepted way more often than an FHA. So maybe it's not the absolute best loan product for them, but it'll probably get them in a house. So they've been willing to go ahead and maybe pay a little bit more in interest, or have a few more, money that they have to bring to closing, but they've been able to go ahead and switch over to a conventional loan. And so that's something to definitely talk to your buyer about. If they have an FHA pre-approval, just see if they can go conventional. It's really, really difficult. And it's kind of not really fair, because an FHA loan is a great loan product, but there is that extra appraisal where the home has to meet the FHA appraisal, and this is true for VA as well. It's also true for the, what's the one where you buy out and rule in the land? USDA. So USDA, FHA, and VA all have the same requirements. They're government loans. So as part of the appraisal, they have an extra inspection that has to be done, and the home has to meet certain criteria. And you can look all that up online if you're not sure what the criteria is. The most common things I see is if there's any peeling paint at all on the home, even if it's on a mini barn, the seller has to paint. They have to scrape that and paint that, even if it's on a deck, anywhere in the trim, mini barn, anything on the property. That will not let it pass an FHA inspection or VA inspection. That's the most common thing we see. There's a few other things. If a window has a crack in it, they have to replace the window. The roof has to have, I might be wrong on the number of years, but I think it has to have 5 years left. Does anybody know for sure? It has to have a certain number of years left in the roof. Otherwise they can't buy it. I think it's 5. Anyway, there's certain criteria, and a lot of sellers just don't want to have to deal with that. With a conventional loan and with cash, they don't even have to worry about it. So even if their home will pass an FHA appraisal or will pass that VA, appraisal, they just don't want to deal with it. So that's why it's really difficult to get FHA and VA loans approved or to have an offer accepted. VA is really a good loan product. And I mean, that's what we have with our house. My husband's a veteran, but there is that extra step. And for some reason, I don't know if it's true or not, but VA appraisals are known to be in low. Like they're just kind of have a reputation of coming in low. So a lot of sellers are like, oh, I've heard that VA appraisals are low, so I don't want a VA loan. I don't know if it's true or not. I have not actually found that to be accurate in my experience, but it definitely has that reputation. So a lot of sellers are afraid of that.
So is there a way to make a better a VA loan look even better?
Yes, there is. And it's what we just talked about. We had a VA loan. They offered to pay $5,000 over appraisal. They did buy it as is. And James, that's your question. You can buy it as is. You put the little caveat that only lender requirements would be asked of the seller. We would only ask the seller to do things that would be a requirement of the lender, which that's the FHA and VA loan. They'll come back with a condition saying, oh, you have to replace the window in the 3rd bedroom because it has a crack in it. Well, that's the only thing that the seller is going to ask for. So that's separate from the as-is addendum, because the as-is addendum has to do with the inspection that the private inspection that the buyer did. The lender does the FHA appraisal, which may have some conditions that the seller may have to repair or replace. Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on. Sure. Let's see my screen. There we go. So the second thing, after you have your buyer consultation and you know that your buyer doesn't have to have closing costs, they're willing to buy it as is, or they're willing to limit the repairs to, anything over $1,000, which is rare. Most inspections don't have that. That they're willing to pay over the appraisal. You've got everything in order. Then you can start actually showing properties. Once you find a property, call the listing agent. I would say I would probably contact them before I even showed the property and just send a text. Don't bother them with a lot of phone calls, because remember, they probably have 200 people looking at the house. Maybe not 200, but they probably have 50. The last weekend I had the house that listed at 195. We had 38 showings within the first 4 hours. 38 showings scheduled. I listed one yesterday at 11 o'clock, and we're probably already past that number of showings. So, you can't just expect that listing agent to talk to you exclusively, but I would just send a text and say, hey, is, 123 Main Street, do you have any accepted offers on it? That way you don't waste your time showing a house if it already has an offer. Read the agent to agent comments. before you set up a showing, because a lot of times it will tell you, hey, listen, we're not going to even look at offers until Sunday night. So you've got 2 or 3 days to show this property. However, you can't necessarily believe that because they can change their mind. But about the only reason they're going to change their mind is if they get a super fantastic cash offer, which you wouldn't have won anyway, unless you have a super fantastic cash buyer. So don't worry if you lose 1 or 2, but just ask them if it's, if they have any offers accepted. I usually say, do you have any offers, right before I even show it, so I know going in. Once you're ready to submit the offer, then I go ahead and I call the listing agent. I like to talk to them because you can ask them, hey, what's important to the sellers? I've got a buyer who loves your house. I'm sure there's 20 other people that love the house. So we want to make this as appealing as possible to your seller. What closing date? When would they like to close? Do they need any possession after closing? Do they need their washer and dryer? Would it be helpful if we gave them 30 days to live in the home, or 10 days? Find out what is important. Is price important? Do we need to to do as is? And a lot of times that listing agent will know what's important and they'll be able to tell you. Let them know once the offer is sent via text and ask for confirmation. One thing I don't have on here, when you send a text to the agent, please put your name on the text, because again, I've got 50 people looking at this house. I've got 20 offers coming in. I don't know who's sending me what. They'll say, hey, did you get my offer? Well, who are you? And it's a simple thing. Back in the day when you would get one offer at a time, it was fine because you knew who they were because they had just looked at the house. These days, I don't know who's sending me text. So please be the agent that thinks about, hey, they don't know who I am. So, I'm going to tell them, hey, this is Becky Gluff Keller Williams. I just sent you the offer. Please confirm. And I'll also put that in my email with the offer. Before you submit the offer, please ask about the offer expiration deadline. Don't just pick a deadline. Don't just say, today's Saturday, so I'm going to make the deadline tonight at 8 p.m. That will make a seller, it'll definitely make a listing agent very angry. If they've already told you in the agent remarks that we're going to look at offers on Sunday night with an offer expiration deadline of no sooner than Monday at noon, then put Monday at noon. You pushing that agent probably isn't going to help, and it's probably going to make them mad. So if you're really got an excellent offer and you want to try to tighten that deadline, you can call that agent and say, listen, I've got a cash offer. We're going to offer $35,000 over asking price. We're going to buy it as is. We're going to close in 21 days, but I have to have an answer tonight. That would be maybe a reason where you could tighten that deadline. Otherwise, just do what the listing agent wants. There's a reason. The next thing is you can share some personal information about your client when you talk to them. It's okay to do that and say, listen, I've asked you about possession and closing and what's going to make our offer stand out. And I want you to know that this is a first-time home buyer. They're so excited. They're going to be having their first baby in 4 months. They really need to get into a home. For example, share a little bit so that ties that listing agent remembers who you are, and they'll kind of remember who that client is. The next thing is, it seems obvious, but put your contact information in your signature line when you mail the offer. I cannot tell you how many offers I receive from agents and they don't have their phone number and their email in the email anywhere. So when I go back to try to contact them to ask a question or let them know that, either the offer was accepted or not, I can't find their information. I can't ask them a question because they didn't put their phone number on there. So please, with text, put your name and your phone number and your company. Well, you've got your phone number in a text. And then in an email, put your contact information at the bottom of that so they know how to get a hold of you. The last thing, be courteous and cordial to the listing agent. Make them want to work with you. I accepted an offer. I didn't, the sellers did, but we had 3 almost identical offers and 2 of them were really identical. I mean, they they did, the other thing I forgot to mention is you don't have to prorate taxes. I forgot, I can come back to that. But they didn't prorate taxes. They offered 5,000 over asking price, over appraisal price. They both offered $20,000 over. I mean, they were just identical offers. One agent had called me, had done everything I said. They probably had come to this class. It actually was another Keller Williams agent, but they called me. They told me about the buyer. They sent everything. They did everything properly. The other agent I had never heard from. They did not contact me. There was no contact between that agent before and during while the offer was submitted. While this other agent, we had already kind of established, I knew some about their client. I knew they were well qualified. I knew the lender. I had used that lender before. So silence versus a relationship. So guess which offer got accepted? The one with the relationship. And that was the only reason. Again, we had two, they were identical offers. So we accepted the offer where we had a relationship. They had asked me questions. I knew that they really wanted the home. I had asked the lender about I called the lender and asked them about this client. So I knew they were well qualified. The other thing I forgot to put on the first section about ways to get your offer accepted, you can have most of the time taxes are prorated. So, I don't know about Ohio, but we pay taxes in arrears in Indiana. So we're always paying for the prior year. So at closing, that seller has to pay for like a year worth of taxes at closing. And then the buyer physically pays taxes using the seller's money. Well, you can use an option on the purchase agreement where you don't prorate taxes, which will give the seller another $1,800 or so in their pocket. That's something that a lot of agents don't know about, that it doesn't hurt your buyer a whole lot because it's kind of invisible, it's just when taxes are due, but it can give your seller a little extra money. Okay. When you submit an offer, please make sure it's a complete offer. Don't have that seller go back and have to ask you for something, or the seller's agent. So, include your purchase agreement, your escalation clause, include the pre-approval letter. Go ahead and include a copy of the earnest money check. A lot of people don't do that these days. Any of the disclosures, the lead-based paint disclosure, the seller's disclosure, include all of that with your email, which is the offer, along with your signature line that has your name and your phone number and your email. That's going to show the listing agent that you have your ducks in a row, that you're going to be organized and you're going to be pleasant to work with. If I have to go back and ask you, hey, I didn't get a pre-approval letter, or I didn't get the seller's disclosure, that just shows me that you're not organized, and you're not probably, if you can't make a good offer when you're trying to get your offer accepted, what are you going to be like to work with during the transaction? I want a smooth, easy transaction. So this just kind of sets the stage for, okay, they're going to be nice to work with. I don't care if I like you personally, but at least you're going to be nice to work with. Include a little bit. I always include a little bit about the buyer. And Carla said, I think you alluded that you even have like a little template or something for them to use.
I do. And I'm going to pop in right now and say that I have heard that there's a lot of discussion in the Kentucky office, which is probably something that we all need to be very attuned to as these things become more and more issues, that we need to coach our clients on their buyer letter not to include things about their family because of the sensitivity around discrimination and those type of things. So we're going to need to talk, and I think we'll talk in more detail about how we can coach our buyers on those letters so that they can still pull at the heartstrings, but without including family type things.
Yeah, that's a tough one because we don't want to break any fair housing rules. And really the letter probably technically is walking a fine line on fair housing. However, I will say it's a common practice that most buyers are doing nowadays is submitting some type of letter. But you do have to be very, very careful because you just want to inform your buyer and your seller for sure, that we cannot discriminate. The only thing we can discriminate on is finances. If they're not pre-approved, we don't have to even, we have to present the offer, but we're not going to consider it. That's really the only thing we can. So as long as you're informing your seller, you're informing your buyer, please do that.
We can focus on what really matters to the seller, that somebody loves their home, right? We can talk about how much we love their home without saying that our kids are going to be playing in the backyard or that our family is going to have. We can just say we, right? And not make it there's a way to keep it. It's a fine line, but there's a way to keep it in the white, right? I think that we just have to be really cautious about that.
Yeah, and I think that's the main thing is being very, very cautious. However, informing your seller and your buyer is your job. I mean, your job is to inform your seller and your buyer and say, listen, this is not allowed. We want to keep you within line. So here's the guideline.
Now I know my understanding is that in the Louisville office, the broker and the attorney for the brokerage has suggested no buyer letters. So that being the case, the other side of that would be that you can write, and I'm sure Becky's going to cover this, but you can write sort of your highlight summary of the offer to make it easy for the listing agent. And so you can do some of the same heartstring pulling without talking about their family or anything, but you could say how much they love the home and how many homes they've looked at and they finally found the one they really like. So you can do this outside of the buyer letter if your brokerage has suggested not to do that. So
yes. And I would definitely go with what your brokerage, and I think that probably we're going in that direction. I think it's going to be a point where really, to me, in my personal opinion, we shouldn't really be using letters because I feel like the opportunity to discriminate is much greater when you do. And that's what in this slide here, you want to include a little bit about your buyer, and notice that the things I put here, the buyer is pre-approved with one of my preferred lenders. Well, that doesn't tell you anything about their family, their gender, it doesn't tell you anything. What it tells me is that, listen, my buyer's going to listen to me. They've never heard of the lender, but you're letting that listing agent know that you trust your lender and that your buyer is willing to listen to you and follow your advice. That's huge. If I know a buyer is listening to their agent and is using a preferred lender, oh my goodness, that's like, yes, thank you. This buyer is not going to go rogue. You can let him know that either, the buyer's a family friend and I want to get them a great house. So that that's not some fly-by-night person that's going to disappear. You found him on the internet last night and wrote an offer form this morning and you've never met him in person. That's kind of scary. Again, this is not discriminatory. We're not saying anything about who these people are. And you might say something, this is a little bit different, where the buyer's family lives near family, they want to raise their children close. You could leave out the children part. But you can say why, they really like this neighborhood. They've got family here. They want to be close to their family. That's okay to do because you're talking about somebody who already lives there. So those are just some examples that you can include in your letter. I also highlight the features of the letter, of the offer. Notice that we are purchasing it as is. We're willing to pay up to $10,000 over appraisal. We have, we're not prorating the taxes. Again, a lot of agents don't know that, so they won't even know to look there. So make sure you highlight the features of the offer, include everything with the offer, including your signature line, and then just tell a little bit about the buyer that is allowed and appropriate.
Hey, Becky, I got a quick question for you. This might kind of be off topic, but this is something that kind of popped in my head. How would you handle a buyer who was purchasing a house? I noticed that you said I'm willing to pay $2,000 over appraisal, but how would you handle a buyer that's like, well, I kind of don't want to buy a house now because I'm afraid that when the market drops, that pretty much it's going to be hard for me to resell my house. So I'm gonna pay regular, like even if they pay regular price for it, when the market drops, my house is only going to be worth like about $5,000 or $10,000 less. What would you say to a buyer to make them comfortable?
Yeah, and that's a little bit of a different topic. Carly, do you want me to go ahead and address? I certainly can.
Yes, please do.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know how much. I forgot to ask you how much time I have.
We are here till 11, so you just.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
you
good.
just-
Yeah, and actually my listing appointment that was at 11 got moved to 3:30. So I'm good on time. Okay, so yes, how I address that, and that's a very, very, very common thing, is what I will say. I'm sorry, who asked that question?
Robert.
Robert.
Okay, so Robert, can I role play with you a little bit?
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
Okay, so Robert, I completely understand your concern. And we are in a market that who knew this, we would be so competitive right now. Basically, we have a housing shortage. But did your lender tell you what your interest rate would be?
Yeah, he said it was going to be about 2.75.
Okay, 2.75, which is incredibly low, incredibly low. So what that allows you to do is you're actually able to buy a much more expensive home now than you would have been able to do a year or two ago, because the interest rates are so low that you really don't want to necessarily focus on the purchase price. You want to focus on, are you able to afford your monthly payment? Do you plan on living in the home at least 3 to 5 years?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. All right. If you're planning on living in the home at least 3 years, maybe 5, historically, then the odds of you being upside down in that home is very, 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 very rare. Are you currently renting right now?
Yeah, I'm currently renting right now, and like I said, my lease is up in 2 months.
Okay, so if you compare the difference between how much money you're going to spend on rent in the next 3 years, waiting to see if the market is going to go down. We don't even know if it is. It may stay where it is. It may slowly go down. It may still go up. So we don't know. Nobody knows. So, but we do know that you're spending $1,500 on rent each month. Your mortgage payment's going to be $900. You're going to build equity with a mortgage payment. You're paying very little interest. So your equity is going to build more over the next few years because you're not paying as much interest as you would have done maybe 2 years ago when you maybe bought for less, but you were paying a lot more in interest. So financially, which do you think is a better decision for you?
With my equity being more, it sounds like the best decision is now.
Absolutely. So let's get out there and let's get you a house.
All right, awesome.
And I mean, I'm telling the truth. I'm not just trying to sell a house. I'm telling the truth. It is much better to buy a house. I don't care what the prices are. If you can get a house, get a house. If you have to pay over appraisal, people who bought their house last year maybe would have paid 10,000 over. Well, now their house is worth 19,000 more than it was a year ago. So they didn't lose out. And nobody knows what's going to happen in 3 to 5 years. But historically, if you stay in that house 3 to 5 years, you're not going to be upside down.
Right. Okay, that was good. Thanks for the clarity.
Sure. Now, if somebody's only going to stay in a house a year or two, we may have a different discussion. Like if you're planning on selling next year, I'd probably recommend you rent. Okay. Next little point I have, number 4 is set your offer apart. We've kind of already talked about this a little bit. Let's see if I can move this. We talked about either an as-is addendum or stating that only undisclosed defect would be of concern to the buyer, or X amount of dollars. Oh, let me go in order here. You could waive the inspection. Again, I don't recommend that. I just think it's scary, but it is an option that you do need to let your buyer decide if they want to waive the inspection or not. Here's a little bit in more detail about state that you will not ask for more than X amount for inspection repairs. Or you can add on that little sentence that we talked about earlier, where if that the buyer would only ask the seller for anything, or would not ask the seller for anything over $1,000 in inspection repairs, something like that. You can word it, come up with whatever amount. On an appraisal, be willing to pay X amount of dollars over the appraisal, even if it's $1,000 more. That's not going to cost. I had a buyer looking at $150,000, which is like gold. If you can find a decent house for $150,000 these days, there's going to be 30 offers on it. We actually offered less. It was listed at 140 or 145. I think it was listed at 140. We offered 150, which was the cap. They could not get a loan for more than 150. They did not want to. And so we offered 150,000 and we offered to pay 1,000 over appraisal price. And we used the escalation clause. We actually offered 145 and escalated up to 150, willing to pay 1,000 over appraisal price. They had 3 offers, we found out. The offer that they did not choose, because with an escalation clause, you have to prove to use it, you have to prove that you got another offer for over that. The offer that they turned down was for $155,000, but they didn't guarantee anything over the appraisal. So they chose our offer at $150,000 because we were willing to pay $1,000 over the appraised value. So it really can help your offer. It's going to cost your buyer $1,000, but in the whole long scheme of things, what is that? It's not going to be that much.
That's 1 month rent.
Yeah, it's just not that much. So
what was the appraisal?
Well, I don't know yet. It's
we
still
don't know yet.
Yeah, still pending. I'm guessing it's not going to appraise for 150, but you never know. Appraisers are letting prices increase, which is good. If the buyer does ask for closing cost, then write in the further conditions stating that the buyer will reduce the amount of closing costs asked for if the home does not appraise. This is a way that you can possibly ask for closing costs, but guarantee that, listen, if it doesn't appraise, we'll take those away. So for example, if you offer 150 and the home is listed at 140, you might say, listen, I'm going to offer 153, ask for 3,000 in closing costs, but if the property doesn't appraise for 153, we're going to change it, and amend that contract and not have that seller pay the buyer closing cost. So that way, if they can pay for closing cost and it does appraise, you're able to get them. But in general, I just think it's better in today's market not to ask the seller to pay any closing cost. But if you have to, and if the buyer doesn't have to have them, this is an option. All right, makes sense. Clear as mud, huh? So let's talk a little bit about escalation clauses. So even though you use an escalation clause, make the original offer competitive. Okay, this is something I don't like to see. I don't like to see an offer. Let's use our same example of 100. It's listed at 140. We came in and we offered 145 right off the bat. And then we escalated up to 150. What I don't like to see is that you come in at 138 and you're willing to escalate up to 141. That's just not going to cut it in today's market. So you need to come in at a really good competitive offer without the escalation clause, because who knows, maybe there aren't other offers that are high and they might just be able to accept your offer right away. And then go ahead on the escalation, you come up to what the seller really can, the buyer really can't afford. I don't recommend that you put as a cap either TBD or no cap. I know that one of the continuing ed instructors had recommended this because you have to counter anyway when you use an escalation clause. That seller's going to come back and have to counter. So they're like, well, you can put no cap or TBD but this is why, as a listing agent, I don't even consider those. I won't even look at those. I'm going to make that agent put a number in there, or we're not going to accept their offer, because I've got maybe 8 offers I'm looking at, and all 8 of them are going to have escalation clauses. And so I'm going to know that, okay, they're willing to go to 150. They're willing to go to 155. I don't know what these people are willing to, so I really can't consider their offer. I don't know. I don't know if no cap means they're willing to pay 200 or if it means they're willing to pay 142. So I will contact that agent back and say, we have to have a cap. I've got multiple escalation clauses. I'm not going to waste time countering your one offer when I've got 8 others that I'm looking at. When comparing multiple escalation clause, those get tossed very, as I said, those get tossed aside very quickly because we don't know what no cap means. We don't know what that means. Now, I do appreciate it when I get a no cap offer, because to me, no cap really means no cap. So on an escalation clause, I'm able to escalate up to the highest price. And if I've got a no cap offer, that means I'm going up to the highest price that I currently have, because no cap means no cap, even though if their intention is not that high. I don't know if that makes sense or not. Call me later, I'll explain it. But just in as a buyer's agent, don't put no cap, bottom line. Okay, and then on the escalation clause, you can have increments that offer is allowed to go either $500 or $1,000 over the next highest offer. I recommend that you never put anything less than $500. It does no good, in my opinion, to say, listen, we'll escalate and you're allowed to go $50 over the next highest offer. Well, $50 is not enough to make me accept your offer. I'm going to look at all of the terms. However, $1,000, that might be worth it. So I usually put $1,000 on my increments. I have seen 500. I've seen people put $20, and that to me is ridiculous. So please put an amount that's going to mean something, and I would say at least 500. I do have a sample offer comparison sheet, and I can email this. Actually, I can email copies of this PowerPoint, whatever handout. I've got a handout and this sample sheet. I don't know if you have something like this already, Carla, but it's just,
you know what? If you send it to me, I'll put it in the multiple offer folder for the PC library, so they'll always have it as a reference. That would be awesome.
Okay. Yeah. What I do, it's just a simple Excel spreadsheet, because once you start getting multiple offers, and I have different pages because 5 offers isn't enough sometimes, but I'll just kind of have a little spreadsheet where I'll, are they pre-approved? Yes or no? And I'll usually put the lender, I'll usually put what lender they're using in this box here. What's the offer price? What are they willing to escalate up to? How much earnest money was submitted? What is the loan type? Icon is insured conventional, insured conventional, FHA. When do they want to close? Is there a financing contingency? It's almost always going to be yes, unless it's a cash offer. Appraisal contingency, yes. No, there's no appraisal contingency here. That means they'll pay whatever we offered. So I'll talk a little bit about this. Do they have to close on another home? When do they want possession? Inspection contingency, how many days? If there is one or not. Are they asking for a home warranty for the seller to pay for one? I don't care if they pay for their own, but are they asking the seller to pay for a home warranty? Are there any seller paid closing costs? Here's one where it says yes, $2,000 if it appraises. Doesn't appraise, they won't ask for it. Do they want a survey? Are there any miscellaneous provisions like this one? Doesn't have to have the $2,000 in closing if it doesn't appraise. Notes, could pay cash for the home if they needed to. So, these are just little notes. Stay in a hotel if they have to close later. So they'd like to close on the 31st, but if we don't, if we can't get it to them until the next month, they'll close later. What I do with my sellers is I'll take usually about the top 3 offers and I'll put them in the first 3 columns, and then I'll highlight the things that are important. And so if you notice this offer here, can you see my screen? And it was an FHA loan. And remember how we talked about, I don't know if we want an FHA loan. However, when you look at the whole package, actually, this is the offer the seller ended up accepting. You've got all these conventional loans, and they accepted the FHA because they waived the appraisal. So they offered $235, they escalated up to $250. These people here put no cap. So that means I could take them all the way up to $250, even though the next highest escalation clause said $245, because they put no cap. I'm like, no cap means no cap. So we went up to $250. So they were willing to bring, what's that? $15,000 over 35, 45. Yeah, $15,000 over if it didn't appraise. And we knew that the house would pass an FHA inspection. It was in excellent condition. I knew the criteria for FHA. I'm like, this is going to pass an FHA inspection. They were willing, they basically gave everything we wanted on this. They waived the appraisal. The inspection was one of those where they didn't ask for really anything. And so we accepted this FHA offer because it could have given us $15,000 more dollars. They were willing to pay $2,000 above. So in an insured conventional loan, we might have gotten 237, or maybe, well, the top would have been 237. This one, we knew we were getting 250. So there are ways to make your FHA loan stand out, but you really have to work at it. Okay. The last thing, again, we have to be very, very careful. I say tap into the seller's emotion without breaking fair housing rules. And so I usually do ask my buyers if they would like to write a letter and just share the emotion of what a home would mean to them. Why the location is ideal. Just kind of tap into emotion. There are definitely sellers, some sellers that will sell based on emotion versus price. If they know that their home is going to be loved and it's going to be cared for and it's going to be the ideal for, the next buyer, they may take a less desirable financial offer in order to get the emotions. I know I've had a couple of sellers say, I don't want to take this cash offer because they're going to make it a rental home. And I really want an owner to live in the home, not a renter. That's their choice. They actually have the right to do that. All right. Any questions?
On that last note, for all of you in Indiana, I don't know if you noticed what they changed on the purchase agreement in January for us, but it actually says on there, is it going to be an owner occupied home or is it going to be an investment property? So, but that would be definitely something to highlight, I think, because we talk about the cash offer, right? Cash is king. Cash isn't always king if they are emotionally attached to their home.
Correct.
So especially when I worked with seniors, this was a really big deal for seniors. So I love that they put that on the Indiana form, but you could also just say it in your, the buyers will be living in the home. This will be their residence, and they're really excited about that. So.
Yep.
I have a question for you, Becky.
Yeah.
This may seem silly, but it's kind of wandering around in my head here. So, even when you get multiple offers on a property and you're comparing what those offers are, when you call for, you say, hey, we're going to go with the highest and best, which your comparison looks like that's what they're telling you anyway. But when they call for highest and best, can you still use that escalation clause at that point?
Yes, I do use you can certainly use the escalation clause.
Yeah, I had an investment property that I thought, I was like, we could do. I was like, we could probably put an escalation clause on here. What you want to offer them. I was like, but we could maybe put that up to your max. And I said, let me check and make sure that they would accept that, because my thought process was, if they're asking me for my highest and best, they want to know what is the absolute highest amount I'm going to pay. But can I use that escalation clause?
Oh yeah, for sure you can. Yeah, your highest and best can definitely include an escalation clause, because I'm going to offer you, 5,000 over asking, but I'm going to escalate 15,000 over.
We'll be willing to escalate on that. Okay, great. I just wanted to double check and make sure, because this one investor was really, I don't know, not very easy. Not the investor. The seller was very hard to work with. So.
Yeah.
Cool.
Becky, how do you handle sellers that's hard to work with, based on your experience?
Well, I probably need a little bit more example, like what does hard mean? Because everybody's hard at something. So maybe tell me a little bit more what type of hard.
Like when they're just want everything their way, and they just like, well, they're not trying to do anything your way, but they just want everything like their way, and everything you do is wrong.
Well, again, it's not. What I try to do with people, whether it's a buyer or a seller, is I give options. And so, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, my job is, you've hired me to give my professional opinion, experience. I've got a whole team of, 200 agents in my office that I check with. And here are your options. Basically, we can do A, we can do B, or we can do C. Which would you prefer? And you just give them options and let them pick, and then remind them that, okay, I recommend that we do A, but I work for you. So we're going to go ahead and do C, and I'm going to, really work hard on getting what you want. And then when you have problems, it's not like you told them so, but really you remove your emotion from, it's their house, it's their money. If they want to lose money, that's their choice. If they're not going to listen to you, that's their choice. I'm not tied into their decision. So I probably need a more specific example to go
I'm
into
sorry, I
depth.
meant like as far as like an agent, like you said some agents you like they're difficult, you're not gonna choose them, but like sometimes you wouldn't know. Like sometimes you would be like, okay, you think this agent be good to work with, but I'm sure you work with those agents that is not the best to work with. How do
Sure.
you do that?
Yeah, I mean, you just get through it. Your job is to represent your client. So if you have to put up with some rough other agents, which happens, that's just part of our job. And it's tough. And then you go and you complain to your other, I have my little group that I can vent to in private. You don't ever bash another agent in public. And then get over it and go, okay, but I'm here to represent my seller or my buyer. So I need to do what's best for my buyer, regardless of what I think of their agent. And sometimes I'll end up doing that agent's job. I mean, there really are some agents that I just end up doing both. I'm just doing their job and they get paid for it because that's in the contract, but I did their job.
That's one thing to remember when you're doing all the things that Becky talked about today. You're making your call before you write the offer to see what it is that they need, and all this, and you write out a letter. Make it easy for the listing agent. If you send a message to the listing agent across the board that you are going to be an excellent agent to work with, then when it comes down to their client saying, well, I don't know, which would you choose? Then the agent might throw in the fact that, well, this agent was really easy to work with, and this one was already challenging, or this one has been challenging for me in the past. So this is why it's always good to be really good friends with your co-op agent. Plus, you can recruit them to Keller Williams and put them in your downline so they can come to the good side.
True.
I have a question.
Yes.
This is Rima. Because we are overpaying for homes, and this is what I'm telling my clients. I'm telling them we start at list price and go 5% above. Now we lose the first deal, even with 5% above. Now their question is, how high should I go to get this home, the next home? And there is no, I can't, I mean, even the recent sales are all over. The numbers are over the chart. And what would you recommend? How do we gauge what is that price?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, Rima. If we knew, we would win all of the offers. But here's what I recommend is I don't look at comps anymore. I really don't, because nothing is probably going to support comps. So that's what during your buyer consultation, you're like, well, last year, maybe you could have done that. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. This year, we're not even going to look at what the home is worth. A home really is only worth what somebody's willing to pay for it. So Rima, can I role play with you a little bit? I like to role play as part of my teaching. So Rima, I know that you're concerned about overpaying for a house, but remember, this is going to be your home. You're going to live there. So in some ways, it doesn't really matter what your neighbor paid for their home. We want you to be in the home that you love. So right now, this home is listed for $240,000. We know it's got multiple offers, so we know it's going to sell for more than 240. So let's go in at maybe 245 to start with. And now we have to escalate based on how much you love the home. Now you're pre-approved up to 300,000, right?
Yes.
So we don't really care what the home sells for because we know that you can comfortably afford 300,000. So we can escalate up to as high as you feel like, really how much you love the home. And what I like to ask Rima is that if you wake up tomorrow and you did not get the home for 250, but you could have gotten it for 252, how bad would you feel? Would you have gone up to 252?
Absolutely.
Okay, and so let's say that you could have gotten it for 252, I mean 255, but you could not have gotten it for 253. So would 255, would you want that?
Yes, I mean, I would, but I do not want my home next year. The value will, with the prices, everybody is saying it's going to drop. I don't want it to drop in value.
Okay, and Rima, are you going to stay in the home only 1 year?
No, I mean,
Are you
we're
gonna-
planning to stay here until the kids graduate.
Oh, so you don't really, you know what, then Rima, you don't care what happens next year or the year after, or even in 3 years. Don't even think about that. What we want to worry about is we want to get you in a home. So it doesn't matter what it's worth next year, does it? Because we don't know what's going to happen in 10 years.
Yes, absolutely. It doesn't matter now, but how high can I keep on inching up that price? I mean, I would rather not pay the whole 300.
Okay.
I mean,
Well, then
where do I stop to get, but make sure that I get the price? I get
Okay. And that's where I'm getting at. So let's say that you don't want to go to 300. How high are you willing to go based on this home? How much do you love this home? Forget about an appraisal for now. Forget about what your neighbors, forget about what it's going to be worth next year. What would you be willing to pay for this home?
Well, just out of the practice script, they usually say, I'm going to consult with my wife.
Okay. And then they come back and let's say they say 280. Okay. So
Okay,
you're
yeah.
like, okay, so we're going to start out offering, I forgot what we said, 250, but we're going to escalate up to 280. However, Rima, remember that a seller doesn't care if we pay 280 for this home if it doesn't appraise. So what we're concerned about is how much over the appraisal are you willing to pay? That's what the seller's going to look at. It's
Yeah.
probably not going to appraise for 280. So you're probably not going to have to pay 280, but you need to be prepared just in case it does. But if it only appraises for 270, are you willing to pay 5,000 over the appraised value for this home? That would put the price at say 275, which is still below where you were willing to escalate up to.
Yes, I am willing to do that.
Okay, that's probably going to get you the house. We're going to start high, we're going to use the escalation clause, and we're going to be willing to pay X amount of dollars over the appraisal. And don't worry about what the market does next year because you're going to be in your home for what, another 10 years?
Yep.
Okay, historically, prices have gone up over 10 years. So you don't really have to worry about the market going down next year.
Thank you.
Or even the year after, or even the year after that.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Otherwise, they're not going to get a house. If they're afraid of overpaying, they're not going to get a house.
Well, they did that twice. We put them in backup offer twice, and now they are saying we're going to do it on our own because it didn't work the first time. Well, you molded both times.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
so
frustrating.
you just have to let them know, listen, let me help you get you in a house. You may have to pay 280 for a house that is listed at 250. That doesn't matter. Let's get you in the house and be willing to pay over the appraised value.
Thank you.
It's hard. It's hard for buyers.
I have a question. I know that you talked about the tax proration. Can you repeat that information again?
Sure. And I don't know, can I ask a question for Kentucky and Ohio? Do you guys pay taxes in arrears as well?
Yes, we do in Ohio.
Okay, so this is going to be the same for everybody.
And in Kentucky too.
Okay, good. Yeah, I saw Shelley. Yeah, I saw your head bobbing. So thank you. When a home closes, that seller traditionally, if you check the box that says the taxes will be prorated, as of the day of closing, the seller's going to have to give a lump sum to the buyer, and it's all on paper. They don't write them a check or anything, but they're going to pay for all of last year's taxes that had not already been paid up through the day of closing. If you check the other box that says we're not going to prorate taxes, we're going to make taxes payable by the buyer as of the day of closing, then that seller does not have to pay all of last year's taxes. So what'll happen, like we pay taxes in May, okay? So coming up this May, if somebody closes on a house, if the taxes are not prorated, then that buyer will have to pay in May. They're going to use their own money to pay for the May taxes versus using the seller's money to pay for May taxes. Does that make sense?
That's all at closing, right?
Well, yes, it happens at closing. The
Yeah.
seller will give all the prorated taxes. It'll show up on that settlement statement. And that'll just sit in the buyer's escrow account until the bank pays taxes in May. If you don't have the seller's money, then the buyer does have to pay those taxes in May. So it's gonna cost the buyer maybe $1,000, maybe $1,800 more, but it's not part of the loan, so you don't have to worry about an appraisal, and it's not due right away. So it gives them a little bit of time to put that money in escrow.
Anybody else have a question for Becky? I mean, while you got the expert, you might as well ask the questions.
I got a question for her. So what's the main thing? Is your organization what helps you get your 106 listings or 106 closings or whatever? What helps you do that?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. It's Command. We only use KW Command. Everybody I know is on a monthly neighborhood smart plan. People I went through my church directory, my neighborhood, everybody I know, all my past clients, I put them on the monthly neighborhood nurture. Are you familiar with the DTD2 system?
Not really.
That's the 2 letters we talk about.
Okay.
Like where you call A&W this week and B&E next week and
So
C&K
every
the
12
week.
weeks, I call that letter. Can I share my command with you so you can see what I do?
That'd be awesome.
Okay,
Please do.
let me go up to screen share again. Okay, can you see my command? I'm logging in here.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, come on. Why is it not working? Great.
I think it's because in blue. Sometimes when it's in blue, it has to be red for it to work. I don't know why it does that.
Just because we want it to, right?
This is so odd because it always works. I'm in here every day. The one time.
There it is.
There. Thank you. I don't know why that was weird. Okay. So you see my task? I bowled yesterday, so I'm a little bit behind, but this is a smart plan that I put them on, and so I have to do these 3 tasks today, and then this is my task for today. So every day I have tasks. Well, part of those tasks is to do my DTD2. I don't do that on weekends, so that's why you didn't see it today. My database is sorted. Let me pull over here. With the DTD2. So I'm going to take away the leads because I don't have my leads on it. But here, so yeah, the leads I don't put them on because I don't really know these people yet. But everybody who's not a lead, like this is a prior client, her last name starts with a P. So see, I have her tagged in the P&L. So when it's that week for me to call all the last names that are P&L, she's going to be one that I call. Here's another one, P&L. Let must be in the P's here. So what I do is each week, we have an admin who will tell us what letter we're on. And then I pull up that letter and you can sort. I'm going to filter by let's see, I don't know the week yet because it's not Monday. She texts me on Monday and lets me know what letter we're on, but let's just say that we'll just do an easy, the A and E.
A and W.
A and W. Sorry, it's root beer. Yeah, A and W. So I'll take that tag and then I'm just going to pull those people over. You know why? Because I have also my team. I'm on a team, so I have my team account as well. So and
while Becky's looking that up, so in your PC library, those list of letter combinations are in your the database folder. So they're all there. And if you come to database coaching, you get those in your email as well.
There it is. Yeah, and actually, if you're new, I'm pretty sure that the concierge program will do 100 of these for you. So you don't even have to do that yourself. But I'll go through, these are all my A&Es. And so I'll go through and I call them. So it's not that many. I mean, how many? I've got 40. If I can't call 40 people in a week, I don't need to be a full-time real estate agent. You know, so I have a week to call these people. I try to do that on Monday mornings. I'll call everybody. Those that I don't get a hold of, then I'll end up texting them by the end of the week if I haven't gotten a hold of them. So I reach out to my database. Let's call my database every week. I put it on my calendar. If you look at my calendar, I have lead gen time blocked out. And I don't do it 5 days a week. I'm going to be honest. I think it's probably a good idea too. But I have 3 days a week where I follow up. And Saturday is not one of those. Usually Friday is. That's why it's unusual for me to have some tasks on Friday. Because I usually do. But I bowled yesterday at the MyBoard Bowl-a-thon. So I couldn't. Let me stop sharing. All right. So yeah, I basically use the monthly neighborhood nurture. Everybody I know is on that. I call my database once a quarter. So that's once a quarter. We have a couple of events throughout the year. We have like a shredding day, free shredding, where people can bring their stuff and get it shredded. That's coming up in 2 weeks. We do a trunk or treat, usually at Halloween. And so I'm going to invite my database to about 4 events a year. We again, the office does trunk or treat. So I just invite my clients to that. We give a pie giveaway at Thanksgiving. I'll contact them about a pie giveaway. So that's that. And then I do have a few internet leads. Our team runs those Facebook ads. And so I'll get some listing appointments through Facebook. We don't do Zillow or anything like that. We used to, but we stopped that a couple of years ago. When I stopped paying for Zillow, thinking that that's where most of my business came from, my production went up. So you don't need to pay for those types of leads. Use the Facebook ads. And those, as far as like internet leads, I put them on a smart plan where they automatically get emailed and texted from me. And then I have a reminder to call them. I think I call them 2 times the first week. And those are usually long-term nurture. I don't usually convert those right away, but I've been in real estate 9 years. So the ones that I'm working with now may have been internet leads from last year. So I just consistently follow up with them. And once you do that a year or two, you've got a pipeline for the next several years. It would be hard for me to quit real estate now because I have a pipeline a couple of years out. But most of my leads come from my sphere or past clients. I think it's 78%, something like that. No, 70. I don't remember. Anyway, it's around 70% come from my sphere or database.
Okay, well, can you, Becky, you said C and K or root beer A and E or whatever.
A&W.
A and W, I'm sorry. So I guess, dude, I just want to make sure I got this straight in my head. You call them everybody like once a month is pretty much what you
Once a quarter. There's 12 weeks in a quarter, and there's 12 combinations of letters. So the first week of the quarter, we call the A&Ws. The second week of the quarter, I call that, I think it's B and E, I think. The third week, every week is a different one. So I end up calling those people once a quarter.
Oh, okay. Now it makes sense. All right, that's awesome. I'm gonna do that.
Yeah,
Robert, I'm gonna show you something real quick so you guys can all see. Maybe if I can get it to come up on my computer. In your PC library, in the database building folder, there is a DTD2 call sheet and the DTD2 groups. And these two things, this is going to walk you through everything. The first document is going to walk you through everything that Becky just talked about. And the second one is going to be those letter combinations. So they're all here.
DTD2 stands for doing the database 2. Doing the database 2. So you're doing your database 2 letters. So DTD2 is where that came from. And there's a math course called what is it called? Oh my goodness.
Never ending referrals.
Never ending referrals. I took that class. I mean, it was about $300, but I've generated millions of dollars off that MAPS course. It was a group coaching that I took. And I think it was, I mean, it was, I don't remember exactly how much it was, but I did spend money on it. But I mean, it revolutionized my business. So if you ever want to take that class, just go to MAPS coaching, group coaching, and find never ending referrals.
I just wanted to clarify something for some of you. Becky mentioned the concierge service. So if you're in one of the KW My Way market centers, Louisville East, Indy Metro South, or Indy Metro Northeast, you have access to Jessica Riley and My Leverage services. And there's the ones that will go through your database and help you clean that up and get them tagged for your letters. For those of you in the Columbus office and Indy Metro West, you don't have that concierge service. So I just didn't want there to be a confusion there.
And there is an option if you don't have the concierge service, because I did it before we had concierge service. You can go to like a Keller Williams Facebook group, and there are cyber backer companies who will do that for you for very inexpensively. So just search for a cyber backer to do that.
Yes, or we can have Keen help you find somebody to help you do that.
Yeah, it's very inexpensive. They'll do that. I think it was like $25 or $30 to have somebody go through. And I didn't do this myself. I actually had a cyber backer from one of these Facebook groups. I think I paid him, I don't know, it wasn't very much to go through and organize my database, but I had 900 people, to organize.
I have some surprise for you. I just looked it up. It is $39 a month to be in the Never Ending Referrals program. And I just put the MAPS coaching, I just put the link in the chat. So if you're interested in learning more about that, you can go there. Another option is the quarterly call plan. So I have most of you are putting your sphere on the quarterly call plan through a smart plan, and it does the same thing. It's just a way of organization.
Yep. Yeah. Wow. $39 a month. That's awesome. Again, I don't want you to spend money if you haven't made money yet, but I tell you, if you have a closing or two and you can spend a couple $100 to stay in this a few months, I just think, and you do what it says, that's the trick. If you just get the information and you don't use it, you're not going to get money. But if you do what they say, and when I spend money, I'm more likely to do what they say. So I think I had to spend money to do it. Then by golly, I put everybody on the smart plan. I called everybody every quarter, and it has generated millions, really.
Well, and you guys know I'm a fan too, because every time you guys see my database, I have those little letter tags all over my database. But I want to make sure you guys heard, Becky said why she was able to sell 106 homes last year was that she contacts her database on a regular basis. If you saw in her database, what did you see in addition to her 2-letter tags? Did you see 36 touch smart plans? She mentioned monthly neighborhood nurture. you got to remember, this is what we have command for. That's the leverage.
Yeah, for sure. We have everybody on a 36 touch, and which I think we do more than 36 touches, but I'll try to
Well,
pull
it's
it
a
up.
minimum, right? If you don't do 36 touches, you're not going to get your 12 to 1. But if you do more than 36, then you're going to get more than your 12 to 1. So everybody remember that. When you want to decide if this is worthwhile for you to call your database, take the number of people in your database, divide it by 12, and that's the number of transactions you could count on out of your database if you were calling them quarterly and contacting them regularly on a minimum 36 touch.
Yeah. I even do like this orphan. You see this tag orphan buyer? When somebody buys a home, I already have their address. So I'm going to send them an annual card saying, oh, it's your first year anniversary in your new home. Congratulations. So when they get ready to sell the home in 3 to 5 to 10 years, they've been getting a card from me every year, congratulating them on their second anniversary of their home.
Now, is that automated, or do you send it out directly to them yourself? Like you set up.
I have an admin who does that, but no, she hand writes a card. I think we're starting to use this AM cards. I think it's like $1.50 or something a card that you just put it out there and they mail it for you.
Oh, okay, awesome. That's really good information.
Yeah. All right. What other questions do you have? 5 till.
All right. Instead of questions, how about everybody give Becky your aha for the day so she leaves knowing that she donated her time to us wisely.
My aha for today was definitely, I would say, the letters and the contact for the 12 weeks. That is really good.
I love that. That was the unintended consequence that she came to talk about multiple offers.
Right.
I can say my aha was just putting the multiple offers on something, on something for everyone to see. That way it breaks it down after you go through it. I think that was really good.
Yeah, mine was multiple offers and particularly the escalation clause and trying to put a significant amount
Becky, I like that, making sure when you're presenting your offer to have everything there and reaching out to that agent also. And I try to do that. I always want to say, hey, I've sent you an offer. Can you please confirm that you've received that? But having everything, even, I didn't even really think about providing a picture of the earnest money check with that offer. But I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Armand, we couldn't hear you. That was the problem. You were very, very soft.
The Anderson volume.
Becky, I was going to say the same thing, sort of. The aha moment for me was you provided so many ways in which we could actually make our offers stand out. So I really appreciate that. That was awesome.
Good.
I was saying that Cheryl, what Cheryl said was pretty much what I was going to say. Is when is the escalation clause part of it? Put a significant offer, or what it appears that it's going to sell for, and then escalate in serious enough steps is basically what I've gotten an aha out of.
Yeah. And remember that it doesn't really, in my mind, it doesn't really matter what the offer price is. It matters, what are you guaranteeing? Are you going to pay over the appraisal if it doesn't appraise? That's more important to a seller these days. That everything we're telling you is going to change in a different market. But in this market right now, this is what's working.
Well, and it's going to change in whatever everybody does. So we were talking about in Louisville, we're going to go over here because I'm going to talk for a second. But in Louisville, I've been hearing from some of the team leaders that there are people that are offering vacations along with their offer.
Yes.
I have been telling you guys, I think something that would help you to stand out, and I stole this from Becky's team, by the way, but I think that if I were writing an offer and I had a good rapport with the listing agent, I would say, please tell the sellers that I will throw in a packing party. I'll
Yeah.
send pizza and, for a packing party or something just to make it to stand out and to show how serious that we are. And does that also not say I'm going to be fun to work with? And I'm going to I'm going to throw the sellers a pizza party. So
Yeah, if you have any contacts, like if you have contact with maybe a house cleaning company, you can say, listen, I'll have your home cleaned for you the day you move out. So you don't have to clean it up, or for anything like that you've got, if you know a storage company or a moving truck company, we'll pay for your moving truck. That doesn't affect an appraisal. You don't have to worry about the lender. And that's a nice little bonus. Plus it does kind of make you like fun. Hey, listen, I'll provide pizza and pay for your moving truck.
obviously it's not in the purchase agreement. It's in
No, no, you can't have mortgage fraud on there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Becky. Becky put her contact information over there. Of course, you can always reach out to me. Becky, will you send me that stuff and I will get it put in their PC library so they have that in their multiple offer folder. And I know this won't affect you, Gretchen, but I know Becky is also doing probably a little bit more of a deep dive into multiple offers on Tuesday at the partner meeting.
Yeah, it's going to be a panel, so I won't be the only one. So it'll be interesting to hear what other agents also have to say. But you'll hear a lot of the same thing because there's only so many things you can do.
Gretchen, I would imagine that Dayla and Andrea are going to have that coming up for you really soon as well at your partner meeting, because I know that's a big deal. And Shelley, I imagine we're going to get a little bit more on this issue of the buyer letter on Tuesday as well. Awesome. All right. Well, you guys have an awesome weekend. Don't forget, text me if you need anything, and I will see those of you in the 12-week program at 8:15 on Monday morning. Don't forget your accountability forms, and don't forget that I'm always on from 5 to 6 Monday through Thursday if you need anything or if you just want to come hang out with me.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies.
Bye.
Have a great weekend.
Bye, everybody.
Enjoy the sunshine. Thank you, Becky.